Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sarah Paxton. I'm the Community and Events Marketing Manager here at Optimal. And I'm so thankful that you were able to take a bit of time out of your day to join us. I know it's different time zones for everyone. We will have a recording that we can share with you after the event. And if you have any questions as the presentation gets going, please feel free to type them into the chat and we can address them as we go and also at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it straight over to our amazing presenter to introduce himself and get started.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know how many different time zones we're in right now, but this is morning for me, so very refreshed. Just had a coffee to wake me up. So I'll introduce myself a little bit. My name is Weidan. I'm a research lead at seek.com. It's an online job seeking and hiring platform, which is based in Melbourne, Australia. So this is also where I'm based in at the moment. And you can see my cat, Toto. He's too curious about what I'm working on very often. So I just had to put him back to his room for this 1 hour. So what are we gonna talk about today? First thing, it's about research efficiency. And we're going to talk more about the details of what does it mean by efficiency in design and research, and the ROI of research, and more importantly, the relationship between efficiency and ROI. And last but not least, how to be efficient in research. I'll provide everyone a framework and the principles of how to be efficient in doing research, and also some techniques of doing so. I don't know how many of you, but I have been through this in the early phase of my career, and I've been observing these pain points happening. But I don't know how many of you have been through these difficulties when doing research. For example, I'm juggling other responsibilities and don't have enough time to focus on research. It might be the case that you're not a dedicated researcher. You have another role, like full-time role to do. Or your stakeholders want really quick results, but they never realize how much effort research actually takes. They think it could be done in 2 days or 3 days. Nice try. And then I spend so much time organizing data that I barely have time to analyze it. Or I know AI analysis can be nonsense at times. Like, it's not perfect, but I do need a faster way to uncover insights. This could be the challenges and the pains that we usually go through. However, some CEOs are kind enough to wish upon us ample doses of pain and suffering, because they think suffering pain is a way of growing, is the best way of growing, which makes sense to some extent. But in research, we still try to reduce the pain and frictions, and through research practice, we try to make our effort worthwhile. So as long as we can avoid the pain, we're trying to do so. So no, thank you, Jensen. A question here at the start of the discussion. How do you define efficiency? Oh, we've seen someone raise the hand. Is there a question for the slides?
So we can call on Elia if you'd like to do questions in the middle of the presentation. Yep.
So this is a question for all of us. How do you define efficiency? I'll get more into the details of the definition, but you can try to use no more than 3 words in the chat box. Describe, what do you think efficiency is? Or maybe just think through in your mind, and then I can present the definitions that I gathered.
So we've got quick turnaround with insights is one of the definitions that's popped up. Promptness, succinctness,
time
time
conscious.
conscious.
Very good, very good. Effective solution with a few detours. Nice. Yes, so looks like we're all trying to find a relationship between different factors, right? It's not like a single aspect about efficiency. So in a very classic way of defining efficiency, on Cambridge Dictionary, for example, it talks about the quality of achieving the largest amount of useful work using as little energy, fuel, effort, etc., as possible, and the quality of working well in an organized way without wasting time or energy. So from these general definitions, we can see it's not just about speed; it's about quality, speed, and impact, like how they uh, interact with each other. That for the efficiency. And similarly, in some academic studies where the topic is about construction and architecture, the author defines that efficiency is about achieve desirable environmental conditions, which is on the quality side, that minimize energy consumption, which can be the impact, right? The environmental impact. And also help system design. Uh, it talks about efficiency being concerned with the relationship between resource input, such as cost and labor, capital, etc., and different outputs. It could be intermediate outputs like numbers treated or waiting time, that could be speed, or final health outcomes like life saved or life years gained, that could be the quality and impact. So the different definitions has been emphasizing these three factors um, uh, in a pattern, which is about speed, quality, and impact. So that means in research, efficiency isn't just about speed, but it's a holistic framework combining the three factors. An example here is let's think about in ancient times, right? Not we, some people ride horses versus nowadays we drive cars. We consider driving cars as a highly efficient way of commuting. And riding horses could be low efficient. But it's not only about speed, right? Moving us from point A to point B, driving is definitely faster than riding a horse. Well, as long as there's no traffic jam, too bad. Usually it's faster. However, there also comes impact and quality at the same time. Think about safety, right? When we drive a car, if while the speed is not crazily high, if one of the tires got broken, most likely we'll be fine. But riding a horse, if the road condition is bad or the horse is getting injured, we could be in danger as well. And also impact, that's more significant, profound factor. We ride a horse to adapt into the road condition, either in the mountainous areas or the forest. But when we drive cars, more human beings driving cars, giving the opportunity to build more roads, right, in the country. And then also the economies, industries along with the roads could be booming as well with those infrastructure being built. So that's the impact, the economic impact that brought along with this high efficiency way of commuting. That's why it's not only about speed, but also, again, interconnectivity of speed, impact, and quality. So what do they mean in design research? Speed could mean a few things. One is the shorter duration for the entire research process. For example, we shortened the research project duration from 1 month to 3 weeks, or a shorter duration for certain research activities, like the whole period of time that we've taken for doing the research is the same. But for example, for data analysis, we reduce that from several weeks to several days. That could be an enhancement of speed. And also a shorter duration for audience to digest information. This is very important as well. Many times we only care about the deliverables, but we could ignore that how important it is for people to gain knowledge from digesting our insights. If they supposed to be taking 1 hour to read through the reports, but we give them the highlights of the insights and they take away the knowledge to make decisions within 20 minutes, that would be a higher speed as well. And quality mainly are about two things. One is the depth of understanding. So how do we understand the data beneath the surface level of customer experience? It's not just about reporting facts, but interpreting their deeper meaning. What does it mean to us? Like if we have a finding, it might be not an insight. We need to ask, so what? Like, what does it trigger us to do next as a more meaningful action? And then the rationale of approach, which is about delivering great results, but also know why we do things in certain ways. We can't handle those why questions to stakeholders and let them guess why we do this, why we choose certain methods, why we are asking certain research questions. We need to be super clear about why we do things in certain ways and explain to everyone that involved in the project. That's the rationales. And impact, first, engagement of stakeholders. Because we do research just not for fun. Well, it's supposed to be a fun process, but engaging stakeholders all the way through the research process is super important for impact. And relevancy to business goals, I've seen this happen a few times in other people's project. Like it's super good research quality. It's they found very interesting insights as well. But then when people looking back in terms of connecting the insights to the main business goals where the research has been using as a starting point, there seems like a weak connection between the two. That means the research might not be that good on the impact level. So we need to seek for the relevancy to business goals. And that's the main aim for doing any research. The inspiration to actions, this is also very important. It's not like we deliver research, okay, it's relevant to the business goals, we engage people in the process, but we didn't end up inspiring them to any actions, like either fixing up some features or generating a new business model or finding new opportunities in the market. Then it's not a good impact. We need to make those actions, either business actions or product actions, more visible after our research. And then we can see how much impact our research has. So that's a bit of a breakdown of speed, quality, and impact. And then I'm going to move on to ROI. And what is ROI? Because remember, in the agenda today, we're going to look at how efficiency and ROI relates to each other. Thanks to the amazing ChatGPT, I asked it what does ROI stand for. I've got a few very amazing answers. Ramen over income, that's something I probably prefer, but I've never been raging over idiots. Anyway, that's just a joke. So what is ROI seriously? Return on investment. So it's a performance metric used to evaluate the profitability or efficiency. Interesting is mentioning efficiency here of an investment. It measures the return or benefit gained compared to the cost of the investment, typically expressed as a percentage. So as you can see, this formula here is a typical way of calculating return on investment. An example here, also a bit of mathematical exercise. Based on this formula, which option do you think gives us a higher ROI? So imagine like we're trying to sell a basket of durian versus a basket of apples. And the benefit of selling a basket of durian is $100 and the cost of it could be $60. The cost could be like transportation, hiring employees, growing the fruit, et cetera, et cetera. So selling a basket of apple is $50 for benefit and $20 for the cost. Which one do you think has a higher ROI? Also put your thoughts in the chat. Seems like Most of us have agreed on the apples, right? Not durian. That's good. That's very good mathematical skills. uh, that's right. So uh, apples has almost double the amount of ROI compared to durian based on this formula. So what does ROI look like in customer research? The formula remains the same. Benefit minus cost and divided by the cost. And if we think about the cost for research, there could be two different aspects: the monetary cost and time cost. So monetary could be, the money that we spend on subscribing tooling or recruitment or using agencies for either doing the research or hiring the participants, and incentives, right, and the salaries. And time cost is generally the amount of time invested in type of research activities. That's what I mentioned a bit earlier. And benefit is interesting here. I've put a screenshot in here, and this is a typical way of calculating research ROI. And many other formulas or calculations are kind of very similar to this one. The benefit in here is mainly calculated by the dollars, like how much money that the team, like this green box and the item here, how much money that could be saved by avoiding redevelopment. Because we know that, we do research and we try to reduce the risks in decision making, and then we try to not make or design a feature that no one wants to use, because that will lead to, redevelopment and putting more money for better results. And that fixation takes money. That could be the cost. And then we flip it over into the benefit by doing research as a good ROI outcome. And the way that we put into other variables are like the time that we spend on redevelopment, the salary, which is the money cost, and the running usability testing cost, which makes sense. And most of the calculations are trying to calculate ROI in this way. The thing is, well, if our team is trying to figure out the budget or like as a roadmap, how much money we can spend on certain research and how much potential dollars that can help us to save after the research, it's totally fine, totally necessary to do so. The thing is, monetary perspective is not the only perspective of calculating ROI. The monetary perspective overestimated the benefit of research. For example, what I mean by that is when we do a research and when we finish the research, we generated insights, right? And the insights could be the endpoint of the research at a stage. And then the goal of saving money and calculated by dollars is the next stage. Between the stage A and stage B, there could be many variables there. Like after we deliver the insights, how did the team make decisions on what to do? How well the design will be updated, and like how are they going to be fixed for the new feature, or for updating, or just filling out the gaps in the product for a better experience, and how the engineering team will be delivering the feature, et cetera, et cetera. There could be a lot of variables between the point A and point B. So in that way, if we think about the calculation, doing the research does not directly equalize the dollars that will be saved. There are a lot of variables that can be even uncontrollable to us during the process. So what research can really be aiming for in terms of value is actually at the point of delivering the insights. How well the insights has been delivered to the team and help them to make decisions. However, again, the insights cannot directly lead to the money, because there is a long process between these two stages. So that's why, in an efficiency perspective, the benefit of research is actually represented by the value of insights. That's all what research can do realistically, because we're trying to achieve impact by our insights, right? We're trying to engage stakeholders with insights as well. A lot of uh, the quality of the research comes from the insights as well. But well, leading to dollars saved, that could be one of the results, but it's just like so a bit far away from delivering the good insights in terms of the benefit. So what can decide the value of insights? Two things, quality and impact. If we have conducted a high quality of research, but not really engaged stakeholders, and they didn't have the buy-in of our research, that's not of good value of insights. If everyone has been engaged and they know they've gained new knowledge, but then it turned out that the selection of the methods of the research is wrong, we got interesting insights, but it's not doing it in the best way, then it's not a good value of insights either. And the cost, then again, as I've mentioned, it could be monetary and time cost. But in this context, monetary is more kind of a steady factor. We can say, okay, we're gonna reduce the cost by, paying the participants incentives from $100 to $10. We save money, of course, but probably the participants will never be coming back for the next research. However, the speed of the research is more controllable. We can try to speed up and then reduce the time cost, although not sacrificing the quality and impact. So with this definition of benefit, the quality of impact of research that leads to the value of insights, and enhancing speed of research that reduce the cost. What do we get for the ROI of research? Again, the ROI of research in an efficiency perspective is not just about dollars. It's about the human-centric opportunities for business growth. So what does that mean? There are different types of opportunities that based on the human-centric insights for business growth. For example, discovery and validation of experiential problems, because like we do concept testing, we do usability testing, we know where it goes wrong and we fix it. That's fixing experiential problems. It could be confident product and design decisions. Like when we know where to fix and we know where to improve, we have more confidence to make decisions to make the product better. Strategic competition in the marketplace. Like if we do improve the product or even branding strategy, we have a unique position in the market to be able to compete better with other competitors. And foster new ideas and innovation. It's not only about fixing the problems, but also inspiring the new ideas for experience innovation through research. And of course, improvement of stakeholder satisfaction, because that's human-centric as well. Stakeholders are humans. We're trying to get them into the process, help them to gain knowledge that they don't know before about people's experience. And then that's kind of a long-term investment to them to engage more research in the future. So those are opportunities as well. So now back to this formula. Again, from an efficiency perspective, the value of insights represents the benefit of research, which are heavily influenced by the quality and the impact of research. And then the cost is more about the speed of the research. And what do we have now? We have this triangulation back, the holistic approach of efficiency between speed, quality, and impact. So in that way, how does efficiency relate to ROI? Because of the three factors interacting with each other and leads to the human-centric opportunities of business growth. So it means that the higher research efficiency that we have, the more likely we're gonna have a better ROI of research. So it's kind of, in efficiency perspective, these two things are like closely related with each other. So I came up with 9 principles of how to be efficient with research: anticipation, time allocation, prioritization, collaboration, assistance of AI, depth of understanding, justification of methodology, business actions, and individual engagement. So I'll explain these principles later. These principles are mostly coming out from my career experience, and I found that they are super valuable to guide me through my research projects to, um, equip myself to be more efficient. But these principles are not just spreading out and sitting in their own silos. They're actually located within the efficiency framework uh, towards three dimensions: speed, quality, and impact. And I put these principles here as at their location with a reason. For example, time allocation is more towards and more focusing on speed rather than quality and impact. It means that, for some tasks, you probably want to use like small time blocks to focus, and then you take some break, and then you get back to it. For example, research planning. You do 20 minutes of writing and come up with your research questions. What you want to do is not maybe spending another 5 hours to try to flesh out your whole plan, because it might be not super aligned with your team's attention. So you can do it quickly for a small time chunk, and then you go back to your stakeholders and align with them and see what could be changed in the part that you have finished, and then you go back to it, and then you back to stakeholders, so on and so forth, to try to finish the research plan in a more collaborative way. Whereas for other tasks like data analysis, you do want to put a big time block, like 3 hours, consistently, because you need to be in your zone to get into your data. So these different strategies of managing time can speed you up rather than slow you down. However, for other principles like assistance of AI, it's kind of sitting between speed and quality, because when we try, for example, to put some data into ChatGPT and ask it to give us a summary of what that data is telling us about that increases speed, right? Like we don't have to read through all the transcripts and then know what it's talking about. But at the same time, because of as we all know, because of the potential AI hallucination, we can't fully rely on AI's answer. So we need to review it and kind of bounce ideas between our responses and AI's answers, and to see what new ideas we can generate from this interaction. In that way, that's kind of a method of increasing the quality as well. Maybe like in the scenario of creating research questions, right? Or come up with insights. AI can be helpful, but we have to be cautious about the quality. So it's kind of a human intervention to improve the quality. That's why the assistive AI is sitting between speed and quality. So same rule apply to other principles here as well. So now I'm gonna get into a bit more details of the principles. Anticipation is important because we want to know at our current stage what barriers or challenges might be coming in the future stages of research, because we want to prepare for the future risks. Maybe those potential risks don't happen, which is even better, but when it really happens, we need to know ahead that it's going to be most likely happening, and how do we going to handle those potential challenges in the future. An example, also my personal war story in my career. Years ago, I was working on my first project at a consultancy as a researcher. And at that time, there was no remote work at all. And everything happened in the office. And that was a consulting work. So I was working from the client side. And it was an ethnographic project. And I led the clients to the field and interviewed their customers in their own customers' working environment. I can see a lot of very high energy from the clients, because they're so engaged in attending those fieldwork sessions and assisting me in terms of asking follow-up questions after the sessions, and also talk to their stakeholders, even without leading to upselling their product. That's what we usually see, right? But they didn't do that. They show a lot of good positive energy. But I didn't anticipate the importance of involving my clients in the data analysis and synthesis process, because I saw they're so engaged. And after the field work, I was like, okay, this is, I'll just keep doing my part after the data collection uh, stage. And because I know they are busy, so I'm just doing this on my own. The thing is, I didn't anticipate how much they will be keen to joining the data analysis synthesis process with me. And that leads to me to a miserable research journey, because at a point after the analysis, they asked me like, oh, why didn't you involve us in this thing? We want to come up with insights together. And they want to be involved in the journey. I was like, oh, I thought, because you are so interested in the field work and you've done that, and probably you don't want to be involved too much in the analysis because it takes a lot of time. That's the thing. At that moment that I know, that I observed they're so involved in data collection stage, I should anticipate that they wanted to be involved in the analysis stage as well, to come up with new knowledge. But I didn't do that. So that's an experience about anticipation. And collaboration is important as well. Usually we see research as a lonely process, right? Just like what I described, particularly for like data analysis and synthesis, we don't want to involve too many people in our work. However, the thing is, by the way, collaboration in this context is different than engagement, which is a later principle. For some research tasks, there are actually quite ideal for team collaboration. And when you leverage your team's power and your team's intelligence, it can significantly enhance your efficiency. Another war story is same consulting firm. I'm sorry for my prior employer. I'm talking about all the stories there, but that was a different project. I was tasked with analyzing data from about 18 or 20 90 minutes interviews within just 5 days. And again, that was no mirror or anything. I just use a wall as my workspace. And that wall is again from the client side. And the worst thing is, after the data collection, my colleagues are gone for holidays, and there was just me and another colleague on the client side. That was very difficult because of the time strains. And the good thing is, I didn't do that just within my own space, but I used a wall that kind of in a space, a public space where people can just walk around. It's kind of a space connects to the working space and the bathroom, I think, as I remember. So the thing is to speed up the process. If anyone related to the project just passed that area, I just grab them. Either that's my teammate or the client side people. I just ask them their thoughts on the findings. I give them a bit of context, like, because they know this project is going on and they had some debrief after the data collection that they've already got the context. So I say, okay, this is some findings from our interviews. What do you think about this? And why do you think about people behave that way? And actually they are interested in it, and they didn't aware that they're helping me to analyze, because sometimes I need a different perspective to connect the dots within the data. That's significantly important, right? We're not just reporting the facts. We're trying to connect the dots and find patterns to generate really valuable insights. So I leverage other people's different opinions and perspectives on the data to help me to connect the dots. So that actually worked pretty well. If I'm doing it myself, well, I can still do it, but I still want to, speed up so I can save more time for my final reporting. Because, in consultancy, the report does matter because the client has paid for that. It's not like in-house research, I can just deliver my report in the Miro board, and then people, as long as people take away the knowledge, that's fine. Consulting is a different world. So that really collaboration helps me to speed up a lot. So this is just an example. I'm not saying like every one of us should do like physical research in the physical workspace, but it's just a mindset of, at the right time we can collaborate with the team to be more efficient with research. Time allocation is what I've already mentioned. Like strategically use different sizes of time blocks for certain research tasks. Sometimes you need a long time to focus and keep yourself in the zone. For the other task, you probably want to, do things intermittently, and then, go back forth and get into it and get out of it and back to it to help you to refresh and reflect. Prioritization. This can be really universal principles for research. For example, some research questions could be important for the other, or some interview questions could be more important than the other as well. So you might need to consider how you want to prioritize them for communication, for communicating to your stakeholders, and also how you can manage your time. For example, in like usability testing, that you need to cover all the prioritized questions if time is like not enough during the session, so that you can focus on the most important goals. Assistants of AI, as I mentioned as well, they are not here to replace, but help us to be comprehensive, because AI is very strong in terms of covering every bit of data, but it still needs our human review to make sure the quality is on a high level. Depth of understanding. So I've seen this also happening quite oftentimes in different companies, where people using facts or findings or observations as insights. But actually that's wrong, because the true understanding lies in uncovering what the data means, not just what it appears. When the people told us, oh, I like this one, I don't like that one, that's not an insight. That's an effect or an observation. So one of the tricks, because we don't have time to talk about the details here, but one of the methods of getting deeper meanings through our understanding is explore the context behind words, behaviors, preferences, attitudes, beliefs, and so on. So what does it mean by what they said and what they do in their potential context? Justification of methodology. This is one of the principles I mentioned a bit earlier about the rationales of approaches. Like, it's not only about your research methodology, it's about the way that you do things, and you know exactly why you do it, and also you can clarify why you do it to stakeholders. It's more for research credibility, right? Like, if you don't know why you choose, for example, on-model testing over a survey, and the stakeholders don't know about it because you are the owner of the research and then you initiate it. If you can't explain that clearly and just saying, oh, because one method is quicker than the other, which is not very strong rationale to help people to believe in the credibility of the research, then that will affect the quality and also the impact of the research. Business actions. Again, we don't do research just for the sake of itself. We do research to trigger people's inspiration and potential actions to improve the experience. So I'm not saying that we need to follow up to another maybe 2 months and to see how people make decisions based on our insights, and is it really embedding the product development process. Well, it's ideal to do that, but usually we don't have the capacity to do it. But what I mean by business actions is like, we need to find the signal of whether people are likely to take actions after the research, even before and during the research. Like, even when we are drafting the research questions while during research planning, we can see people's energy of how much they will be likely taking actions, because we set up the stage for them. If we, for example, come up with several hypotheses and people say, oh, if you'll do this, and that's going to be a problem, and we can do something to fix it up, something like that. That's a signal. That can happen on a really early stage of research rather than after it, but that's still a signal of people will potentially take actions in front of the research. And last but not least, individual engagement. Not only your stakeholders, but also yourself need to be engaged in the research process. I think this is the principle that go through all the stages of research, from planning to data collection to analysis to reporting, because the whole journey of research is a journey of engagement. If people are just waiting there for your answers, or you don't have the high energy of doing the research, well, you can still finish it, but that's not the way of maximizing the impact of your research. So people should be able to feel like they're involved and they're seeing the aha moment just not all of a sudden, but they see the evidence gradually and leads them to the aha moment at the end of the point. So eventually, research is a craft, uh, and research efficiency comes with practice. We can't just achieve a very high efficiency overnight or just by looking at different principles. We need to practice it in daily work. So as probably Sarah mentioned already, I have an online course on efficient research, improving the ROI of understanding customers on Maven. So in that course, as you can see, the structure of the content based on what I talked about previously, it's gonna be structured based on the 9 principles across different stages of research, and each stage of the research is actually a chapter of the course. And then I'll have different techniques within each chapter and within each principle. I call that technique cards. And there are about 160 technique cards to help us to enhance the efficiency of research. And what does it mean by technique cards? This is an example. For example, for the principles of individual engagement, I have co-create hypotheses with stakeholders. So sometimes we probably don't just want to come up with hypotheses on our own, or we can just write it up. But at least we want to involve stakeholders in the process of co-creating and generating hypotheses before the research starts. Actually, that's something I mentioned as in not giving people the surprise, oh, see, this is the final results based on my hypothesis. It could be a more collaborative and engaging process where people come along with you during the journey and then come up with the process. In that way, they know where it starts and they know what happened during the process and they know what answers they get. So that co-creation is super important. And then co-creating hypothesis is one way to engaging people. So this is one of the technique cards, and there will be like 160 or 158 or something in the course. And the hierarchy is like this: the techniques or technique cards are within the principle, and then the principles are, again, as you can see from the previous framework, is aligned within the efficiency framework that address speed, quality, and impact. But it's not going to be that in the course that you just take away the cards and do whatever you want. The main aim for the course is to applying and orchestrating techniques to tackle real world challenges in your research from an efficiency perspective. When I say orchestrating, it means that, for example, for each one of the technique cards, they are not just working alone. For certain problems we want to resolve in our real life experience, we can use multiple cards and techniques to approach those problems and resolve that problem. So it's all about, again, a holistic approach, looking after speed, impact, and quality to enhance efficiency. So I think this is my last slide. Yeah, as I mentioned, the course will be on Maven. If you just search my name, you can find it. And the course will be using a few different formats. There are pre-recorded videos, and these videos are self-paced. And there will be 2 interactive sessions per week. So each interactive session is referring to one chapter, which is AKA one stage of research. So 2 sessions per week for cohort-based learning. And also there will be like live Q&A on the Maven platform. So any questions could be, we can talk about any questions at any time on the platform. And also I'll provide takeaway templates along with the content and the course. And that's it. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and how much work you put into this framework that you've developed. We do have a few minutes for questions. So, as people are thinking about what they might like to ask, please feel free to type it into the question box or raise your hand and you can ask your question directly. Um, I had a question regarding your first war story example and not looping in the stakeholders into
Yeah.
the synthesis process. Um, I feel like that would probably be a really hard um, aspect to kind of navigate because you are trying to respect their time. And that's one of those things that if you don't ask the question of what level of engagement or what level of participation do they want, you kind of are a bit in a rock and a hard place because you're assuming what they might need or not need to be a part of. How would you kind of navigate that now, learning from that lesson?
That's a great question. That's kind of the hidden words in this war story.
Mm,
We need to be proactive. I don't think there's any other better way to do it. Like you said, if we don't ask, if we don't explicitly detect people's expectation on their engagement, very likely we're gonna miss it because we are not them. That's simply the facts. So that's why in the anticipation principles, I have some techniques around, how might we uh, be more proactive to explore people's different, because we can have, maybe very likely not one stakeholder but many stakeholders, or a few at least, and they have their own personal goals and their preferences. um, and when I say preferences, is not only towards the research but also their background. Like some people is just more statistical, they want to see, the numbers more than the other people who probably want to see like more intriguing storytelling. Those are all the things that you might want to anticipate from the front stage of the research, and then you approach them and say, oh, what do you think might happen if we find something like something. It could be imaginary scenarios because the research hasn't done yet, but you can try to detect the signal uh, about how, like, the best way of engaging people, and the best way to deliver the insights, not what they want, because insights is insights. We want to stay objective, but the thing is, like, the better way of showing those insights to people to make them feel more related to the projects, and make them to feel like they are involved in the process rather than, set them in isolation. So in summary, I think being active and proactive is probably the best way of doing that. And there's no harm to just ask people in the beginning of the research, so you can have more context about what these stakeholders need. What are the people involved in my projects are expecting from it? That can give you anticipation. But also, I think people factor is one thing. There are also other aspects that we can anticipate about. For example, when you know the scope of your research, you should foresee that potentially how much time you're going to have to spend on data analysis, right? Or if you have already chosen a method, um, let's say on testing, usually that's a smaller time investment, and you're probably going to have shorter sessions to analyze versus 1 hour interview in the future. So that's something you need to anticipate as well in the front stage. There's nothing about human involved like this case study, but you still have to foresee the future potential barriers coming into those methodologies of research, and then prepare for that, for better time management. But I think the general rule under that, the hidden words, as I mentioned, is being proactively thinking about the barriers or people's engagement preferences.
yeah. No, I love working with researchers. I would say overall, and I know I'm making a general statement, but the empathy that researchers have and their ability to listen and kind of read people is always so fascinating to me. Because you would have to almost do a bit of research into your stakeholders to try and figure out what they want and need so that you're delivering the best possible value for them.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
we've had a one question pop up, which will probably be our last one. Actually, we have two. We'll see what we can get through. One is, how do you deal with stakeholders who are only interested in speed and view research as a bottleneck / time blocker? Um,
Yeah, I've seen that from the chat box.
yeah.
Great question, because that's really a very common problems that we face when we do research, right? Uh, I think it's about so first thing, it's not wrong that people think that way. Like everyone wants things to be finished faster because they can just save up time for other stuff. The thing is, uh, I think there are different scenarios. One is if uh, we can speed up the project and without sacrificing quality and impact, well, that's the most ideal solution for it. But the more difficult situation is when when we speed up research, usually it kind of eating up our time of analysis, and then that means we can't deliver qualified insights, or we can't think through how much more impact or value that research can deliver to the broader scope of the team. That would be the main problem. So in that way, I think it's still kind of, if thinking about one of the principles I mentioned as justification of methodology, we can justify, okay, we chase for speed for this project, and how much faster I can get it done than like as the stakeholders' expectations. But then how much the quality and the impact that will be sacrificed, and if that's the case, are we going to be happy with the trade-off? Although that could be not the original words that you want to speak to your stakeholders, but that's what I mean. It's like to show the trade-off clearly to them. As in, you get this, you can't get everything, right? If you can, well, that's not a problem. The problem is like you can't get everything done at the same time: speed, impact, and quality. So be explicit with them, like by reducing this, we can probably reduce the other the influence of the other factors as well. So because we're looking for the best outcome from the research, we need to achieve a balance. Maybe not that fast, like maybe not supposed to be a 1 month research and we are just looking at like 1 week to finish it. Maybe not that exaggerated. What if like we find a middle point that can keep both speeding up and also the quality and the impact? It's kind of a negotiation in there. And I think that's important because it's just like one of the pain points that I showed in the front slide. It's not that people trying to it's mainly about people don't know, like if they're not doing research themselves, they don't have a clear idea directly or direct feeling of how much research can take, like how much time research can take for the best results. So that's why I think being explicit about them on the trade-offs between the speed and other factors like the quality is helping them to understand in the long term as well, that for this type of research it does need this time to keep the quality and impact on its best level rather than harming it. Otherwise it could be, we speed up for this project, we're so stressed, we don't have a well-being in the research process, and we just feel like we're rushing through the process. In the future they can still come back to you and ask for the same speed, uh, and prioritize speed over everything else. So it's kind of a little bit training and like mentoring process to let people know more about what should be happening during research process and what should be prioritized.
Wonderful answer. Because I know that is a pain point that lots of people experience. We'll close up with one last question, which starts with a compliment of great presentation. Do you have any advice for solo user researchers working in-house? And they're currently trying to upskill in their marketing. But yeah, how do you kind of a one-man band, if you will?
uh, I think there are goods and bad. I used to, well, in my experience, I used to be a solo researcher in one of the companies a few years ago. Um, the good thing is you have a lot of good autonomy, right? Like you do whatever you think is the correct way to do, and you are the expert. Well, the 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 cons of that is it can be, you have your blind spot when you do it not in the best way. Well, not necessarily wrong, because as a trained researcher, you probably know what's right or wrong, but you probably don't know what could have been better if there's a different perspective. That's why I think the principle of collaboration is super important. Is that you know not everyone is expertise as you are in terms of research, in terms of researcher or on research itself, because you are more experienced. The thing is, uh, by doing research, the whole process is always like we observe something, either behaviors or words, and we try to interpret it and then generate knowledge from it. In this process, there's no absolute expertise. It's just like watching a movie, right? Everyone gets something different out of it. And there can be really interesting perspectives on the movie, even if the people are not directors. And probably directors cannot see the interesting things that the audience can see. That's the thing. So when you collaborate with people as a sole researcher in a company, trying to incorporate other people's opinions, they don't have to be your final solutions or your final insights. Use that people as an analogy. Like, you can view those people as your AI, if that's not appropriate. But like using those people's answers as ChatGPT's answer, you don't directly take it into your final report, but you use them as a thought trigger or as a different perspective to help you to reframe your questions or relook at the problems or relook at your data. And they could be your allies, but although they don't admit it because they are not your researcher peers, but you use their ideas to generate new ideas and trigger new thoughts. I think that's something that can be helpful as, to help you to uplift your approach to research as a sole researcher if you don't have a peer in your team.
No, that's great. Wonderful advice. With that, I think we'll wrap up. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to present these ideas in such a thoughtful and concise way. And also, thank you to everyone for taking time out of their days to join us. I've added the course links in the chat, and this recording will be available. And so we will send it over to you tomorrow, and you can view it again at your own leisure. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you.
Bye bye now.
See ya. Bye.